Hi guys, and welcome to today's episode on how to focus your camera. Have you ever had a problem where all of your photos are blurry or they're not focusing on the right thing? Well, I'm going to teach you how to get perfect focus every single time. Hi, my name is James Ruddle and welcome to my channel. So I don't know about you, but when I first started shooting on my DSLR camera, I had the hardest time focusing on specific elements that I wanted to focus on. And I realized it was because I was using autofocus. And autofocus is great if you don't know what you're doing or you're just learning. But when you want to actually use your camera to the best capacity, and you want to focus on the things you want to focus on as opposed to using the brains of the camera to focus on what it thinks you want it to focus on, all you got to do is turn off autofocus, and then you can use and understand focus to properly focus on what you want to shoot. So when first learning how to shoot, taking your lens off of autofocus, it's really important to figure out how to actually turn autofocus on, because it may be in two separate places. It may be on the lens, like here, and it also could be in your settings. So when you turn on your camera, you're going to have to go into your eye information, and then you may have to change it from autofocus to manual focus. So I'm just going to take a few different photos using autofocus, and then I'm going to turn off autofocus and use manual focus and show you how I can actually accurately get my focus spot on every time. When shooting on your DSLR camera, it's really important to look at the lens, to read the lens, and on the top of my lens, right here, you will have a measurement, and it will say 85 millimeters or 35 millimeters or 15 to 35 or something like that. But it'll also have this other sort of dial. And what that does is that says, well, if I'm shooting 2 feet away, 2 feet from my subject matter, 24 inches, then it will be in focus. So it's really, really helpful to make sure you know what the minimum focus range of your camera. It's also really important to know if you're doing macro photos or if you're taking like really, really close-up shots, what the working distance of your lens is. And some lenses are, 3 inches away, some of them are 20 inches away, but making sure that you're getting what you want in focus is really, really difficult. And so sometimes when I'm actually taking photos With a macro lens, I will rock back and forth like this to make sure, or to see where my focus depth is, to make sure that I get the right thing in focus. So when you're using your autofocus, make sure that you read the top of the lens and see what the optimal range is for you to focus on. How far back do you need to be, or how close do you need to be to your subject to get it in focus? Link, so are we going to do some target practice? Oh, good job! Okay, I think they're done. High five! We got one! Yeah, we got one! So this lens tells me I have to be back 1.75 feet. I gotcha. Another first-time mistake that a lot of people do is they will shoot white on white on white, or brown on brown on brown. And if there's no contrast in your subject matter, the camera, if it's on autofocus, will have a very, very difficult time figuring out what it actually wants to focus on, and what is the foreground, what is the middle ground, and what is the background. So, if you're using manual focus, it certainly helps. So this is auto servo autofocus, which does both single servo autofocus and continuous servo autofocus. So it does both, and the camera sort of thinks about which one is better for the situation. Here's single servo autofocus, which is best for things that are not moving, landscape photography, or still life photography where there are small objects that aren't moving. Continuous servo autofocus is for action photography, sports photography, or if you have little kids. Then manual focus is for, obviously, the best manual focus when you're shooting macro photography or something where there is constant moving, where you want to be in full control of your focus. The next thing is, if you're at a sporting event, take it off autofocus. Your camera cannot think fast enough to get a quick act of motion. If someone's going up for a dunk, your camera is going to be so much slower than the players that are moving on the basketball court or in the soccer field or when your kids are running around. We're just going to go into the woods and take some photos dealing with focus and just changing from autofocus to manual focus. Okay guys, no, by the tree, by the tree, by the tree. Stand up in a row. I've taken a series of 3 photos with the autofocus on, and then this time I turn the autofocus off so that I can show you the difference between depth of field and what's in focus and what's not. Okay, no, come on. Closer. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Quick. Jeez. So by setting a manual focus, I'm able to get all 4 of us in focus using a fairly narrow depth of field, like at f7.1, and still get everybody in focus.
I'm so weird, I'm so weird, I'm so not.
I hope you enjoyed these tips. Please stay tuned for my next episode and can't wait to see you.